Maneser's Manmohan is a third-generation businessman. His family shifted to Manesar in 1997. The units set up by him in Manesar are counted amongst the oldest medium-sized units in the area. Manmohan is in the business of home furnishing products and expensive designer clothes. During the lockdown in March 2020, his work came to a standstill. Before COVID, Manmohan had employed almost 150 people. The number of people employed indirectly was close to 70 to 80 who worked based on contracts or supply. But when the work came to a standstill, the number of employees was truncated to 80. Outsourcing stopped. Their home furnishing products go to Europe and America. There was a lockdown all over the world, so the exports also stopped. When the situation improved a bit, Manmohan's work also started getting back on track. Manmohan's family, which has been conducting business operations for 3 generations, was able to bear the shock of COVID and save their business. But the way business was being conducted has deteriorated. He restarted the unit. However, he could no longer afford to employ the same number he had before the lockdown. The government's latest quarterly employment survey shows that about 92% of companies in India have less than 100 employees. Of these, 70% have less than 40 employees, and most of them are concentrated in the services sector. Entrepreneurs like Manmohan form only 4%, where 100 to 200 employees get work. Units with 200 to 500 employees are around 2.8%, and companies with more than 500 employees account for only 1.4%. A McKinsey study shows that in India there are only 1,500 companies per $1 trillion of GDP, which can be called a medium-sized industry. That is, the companies having a turnover from $4 to $200 million. This number is almost half that of India's competing economies. Usually, only a medium firm can become a big firm. In India's competitive economies, the number of medium companies is 1.6 times more than that of large companies. Manmohan may have managed to stay in businesses, but today, his ability to create jobs has been shattered. Even in medium companies which have around 200 employees, COVID had a very bad effect. If we talk about Manesar itself, before COVID, about 2 lakh people were getting employment in different units there. Despite the improvement in the situation, today this figure is between 1.25 to 1.5 lakh. Manmohan says that if the COVID pandemic had not happened, the number of employees here would have been above 3 lakhs. How the budget has affected him? Manmohan says that the times have become very challenging. For small units, the issue is survivability, but the problem faced by medium companies is different altogether. They have the option to move forward, the power to expand, but due to the shock of COVID, they have started losing a large part of the market. The dual challenge is that big domestic companies are rapidly taking over the market, and due to cheap imports, the distributors are directly importing the goods from outside. The last budget helped by giving cheap loans to small units and tax concessions to large units. Medium companies, which give maximum employment to the population, did not receive any direct help. Had this been the case, they probably would not have had to face so many issues. Manmohan says that in Europe, governments had given grants to medium companies in order to save jobs. This should have happened in India too. Manmohan's son, who has returned from abroad, is now in favor of automatic machines, for which a loan will be available from the bank and workers will not be needed. Manmohan questions the government's decision to not give grants to the medium units. He argues that if today the government gives some money to these units as a grant, then jobs will be available, businesses will run, and the government will get a larger amount of tax. His experience with regard to bank loans is mixed. Manmohan says that it is now difficult for banks to agree on the business's future amid COVID. If the bank is not empathetic to your situation, then the cost of the loan increases greatly. Manmohan further says that although their work is going on, medium companies do not get the benefit of the bankruptcy law. He questions the idea of giving benefits to only large companies under this law. COVID has pushed back Manmohan's business by 5 years. Big companies now have more power in their hands. They have increased the prices of raw materials arbitrarily, and that has sucked the entire capital of small businessmen. Business cost is a big problem for medium companies. After COVID, the cost of raw materials increased exponentially, due to which further business plans have been thrown into jeopardy. Manmohan requests the government to make the raw materials cheaper. The prices of raw materials have increased by 50 to 100%. This increase is not completely justified. The big companies have already made up for their losses, while the struggle has arisen for the medium-sized units to survive. Manmohan wishes to get raw material at a cheaper rate and to get tax concessions. He is confident that if both of these are made available, he would be able to provide more employment and increase production.